Hi there and welcome to Metro Woman.
It's a show for women and about women.
Today's home inspections, we're looking with Kelly Foley on the outside of a home and everything you've ever wanted to know structurally, the roof, just all that really important stuff.
Lots of good stuff if you're looking on the outside.
Well, there's a lot of things that are important information, things that, it's your house.
Right.
It's important, you want to make sure it's solid, it's ready to rock. So Kelly's going to give us a lot of great advice. So please join us after the break here on Metro Woman.
We are, Kelly, up on the rooftop. So tell us what we need to know about things up here.
Well, actually, ladies, there's a lot to know about the roof. The roof essentially protects your home from the elements. So as a home inspector, we really want to make sure that the quality of roofing material is something that the buyer is very aware of, the stage that it's in. A lot of times with an asphalt roof like this, you'll get around 20 years out of a roof. So it's nice to give them an idea about how old the roof is. Possibly the condition today, and the obvious thing is there any active leaking going on today?
And how can you tell by looking at the shingles their age? I know there's probably a record of when they replaced it or put it up, but how can they tell just by looking?
Well, that's a good question. Really, the life of a roof tells itself by the condition of the shingle. A lot of times the asphalts, the granules will wear off as the years go on. They'll shrink up a little bit. They become rounded instead of corners. And it's just something that after, like a lot of jobs, with more and more experience, you get better at doing it.
Sure, I can see that.
Is this the most common in the Midwest?
It really is. There is a few other materials used, but by and large, this is by far the most popular used.
And is that because it holds up the best in our varying weather?
You get a good life expectancy out of it, and it's really maintenance free. Other than some caulking here or there, it's really going to be susceptible to most weather we get here in the Midwest.
Yeah, I haven't gotten up on my roof and cleaned or anything lately. So.
No, it's on its own, believe me.
I thought it was best you get on the roof to get a bird's eye view of what we do.
Well, this is exciting.
There's no better way to learn it than just get up and do it.
It's testing my acrophobia, so I'm not going to be on your staff anytime soon. But what would be the next step after you've tested or
again,
looked at this?
Yeah, again, there's a number of things we look at. We'd like to look at the gutters themselves to make sure they're going to do what they're supposed to do. And that's as the water treads off the roof line, that the water is collected and then divert it down through the downspout, through the gutter, and then away from your foundation. And that's key. The roof really has a function beyond just keeping the elements directly off of it, and that's to drain the water well away from the home.
Right, and what are the signs that it's not draining away from the foundation?
We see a lot of them, and well, we're going to save that question because we're going to be over at the foundation a little later.
Okay.
But what I will tell you is that it's something that we look for. The obvious things, clogged gutters, we see it a lot. Kids' tennis balls get stuck, frisbees, and then just leaves and debris and things like that. So we want to start with a clean gutter, ones that are sloped properly and that aren't rusted. A lot of times we see if they're not cleaned consistently, they'll rust out.
And I'm sure there are signs too if your gutter is leaking because of paint and
Absolutely.
discoloration.
Yeah,
and
discoloration
like
on the fascia boards, deterioration perhaps.
Okay, so after gutters, what would be the next thing you'd be looking at?
Probably the next thing, I'm going to have to take a quick walk up here. There's
We'll
two
watch you
things.
walk.
All right, you guys stay right there.
Right ahead.
The roof vents are pretty essential to the function of a home from ventilation to allow the roofing materials to last as long as they should. Your attic builds up extreme heat, and with the ventilation, it allows it to vent out, and so that these don't get as hot. They may feel hot today for you girls, but they're not nearly as hot as they would be if they didn't have vents. It's really important around roof vents to make sure they're sealed really well so that, again, moisture doesn't penetrate those areas. And then as the water treads off the roof, we'll walk back over here to your left, and there's a valley comes down here, and we really want to make sure that valley's been installed right. And this one is tin, so there's not a lot to wear out with those, so it's mainly just making sure it was installed right and still doing its job.
And that's about the size of it? Are there any, like, what if there's a chimney or something sticking up out of?
Yeah, there are a lot of different roofs, a lot of different scenarios, but sure, if there's anything that penetrates a roof line, we're looking at that area specifically because that's where you're going to have moisture penetration.
Going back to the venting, I was familiar with someone who bought a home whose all the shingles were curling up, and they realized their venting was not proper, and the attic heat was making that. Is
Sure.
that what
it
big
bakes,
red flag?
It does. I mean, it bakes the shingles. So
Okay.
in one case, we'll see a newer roof, and really even at that, people are misled to think, I have a new roof, it should give me 20 years, but if it doesn't have the proper ventilation, you may have a lot of premature wearing, and you may get 8 to 10 years out of those.
That's an expensive mistake.
It is. It's something to know.
Exactly. It's not easy to switch roofs.
So can we, are we
Should
done
we
up here?
hop down and get to the lower level?
Absolutely.
I'm not hopping down. I'm going to wait
Let,
for
let
a
me,
ladder.
let me get the ladder set up for you
You're not
girls.
flying none. You just can't take off.
Join us after the break as we get off the roof.
All right. Well, we're off the roof and we made it to the side of the house. So tell us what we need to know over here.
All right, safe and sound on the ground again. That's
Yeah.
a good thing. There's a lot of things to look at when you're looking around the perimeter of the home. A couple of things obviously stick out quite readily, and that's the air conditioner. There's a few things we look at for the air conditioner. We're going to run it, of course, to make sure it's cooling at the proper temperature, but also just the overall condition of the unit itself. A lot of times twigs and debris and leaves will get themselves cluttered up around the unit, and you want to keep those washed away. Typically, with the unit off, simply a garden hose, anything like that, just to wash it off. You don't want to put a lot of pressure through a garden hose into the unit because it can bend the fins. But something in the way of general maintenance each spring, just with a light garden hose will do it.
And usually once a year or spring and fall.
Yeah, usually these things, I mean, you'd like to say more than once a year, but typically I don't see them being done at all. So if we can stick to once a year, it would be great.
Better than none.
That's exactly right. And if you think about it from the standpoint of what season you're going into, what is it you need to get your home ready for? You know, we're going into spring, I'm going to be using my air conditioner, so maybe we should just clean it up a bit on the outside.
Makes sense. Right.
A couple other things real quick. The electrical meter, something you really don't have to do anything with, but it's nice to know what it is, where it's at, and there's only 2 ways electrical will come into a home. One, like this, in a newer home, will come in underground, and that really protects the wiring from children or anything like that. The other area would be if it comes in from a light post overhead, and those things you just need to be aware of. Again, when we were on the roof, we looked at that penetration with that pole coming down. Otherwise, there's not a lot to be concerned about there. A lot of people ask me, what are all these little boxes on the side of my home? Do you know?
This says telephone. So
There you go. It says telephone
I'm
right
not
on
schooling.
there. All right, you pass. Basically, that's exactly right. The telephone interface, and this is your cable box. This is an electrical disconnect for the air conditioner. So when someone comes out, there are times, obviously, if your air conditioner isn't working or if it is dirty beyond what you can clean up, certainly call a professional. They will come out, they'll trip this so they're not going to get shocked when they're working on it. This happens to be a radon mitigation system, which in Iowa is a good thing to test your home for, radon gas, something that comes up from the ground. And this home has a radon mitigation system and it's keeping the levels low in the
we
home.
just got one of those, and I didn't realize what a big deal it was, and I'm like, oh, pretty
so
important.
So that registers the amount of radon
It
if it were
actually-
in your home?
It actually mitigates or gets rid of the radon gases that are in your home. It will collect it, maybe for a different show, but we certainly want everybody to be aware that testing for radon gas is an important thing to do. All right?
Okay, and then there's 2 vents.
2
for
vents, that's
something.
right. This vent, as you can tell, maybe by the lint and debris in it, is the dryer vent. And this is a really good item as far as a general maintenance item to make sure this stays clear. So all of this lint in there,
They must have purple towels.
maybe they do, that's right. The one item is a lot of people are good at cleaning out the inside where at the dryer, but
right.
to come out and clean out the outside is really important as well, because it's something that it really becomes flammable and becomes a fire hazard.
I
So-
would hate for all this stuff to catch on fire because that'd start a big mess in a hurry, wouldn't it?
It probably would, yep. And that's why it's important. I mean, when you move into a home, get it inspected, understand the condition of these things so that you're not walking into something that you're not aware of.
We lived in a house once where we vented our dryer into the garage, thinking the nice warm air would be good. Not a good idea. Your car is full of lint all the time.
Probably a better
Not
way to
good
do it than
idea.
that.
You gave it a try.
Sounded good. It smelled nice.
There are a few other things we'll look at, and we'll need to walk around the home a little bit. So.
All right.
Sounds good. Join us after the break here on Metro Woman.
But first, here's a quick and easy recipe from Kayla Westergaard from the Iowa Egg Council.
Today we're going to be making a spinach frittata, a great way to sneak some of those extra vegetables into anybody's diet. The ingredients you'll need are a half a cup of chopped peppers, a half cup of chopped onion, 2 tablespoons of olive oil, 3 eggs, a half cup of milk, 1 cup of chopped cooked chicken, a half cup of spinach, a half cup of shredded mozzarella cheese, 1 tablespoon grated Parmesan cheese, a half teaspoon of salt, and 1/4 teaspoon of pepper. Now let's get started. So the first thing we want to do is beat together our eggs and our milk. Just until it's well mixed. And then add your chicken, which has already been cooked. Our peppers, and I chose peppers today, but if there are other vegetables you would like to add, go right on ahead. Our spinach, our onions, and our salt and pepper to taste. And just mix well. Plus, don't forget your cheese. Now that our ingredients are mixed, I'm gonna grab our skillet and head over to the stove. Okay, our skillet is heated to a medium-high heat, and I'm gonna add in our egg mixture. And that color is just beautiful, oh my goodness. Even that out. And then I'm gonna top it off with some Parmesan cheese. I'm gonna cover this and let it sit for about 7 to 10 minutes, and we'll have spinach frittata when we get back.
Moving my mind and my hands at world record speed. I'm Luke Myers. If you want to be incredible, eat incredible.
Eggs. Incredible energy for body and mind.
Spinach frittata, a healthful dish that your family will love. I'm Kayla Westergaard.
Tell us about the foundation and some important points about that.
All right, we talked a little bit on the roof about the gutter system and how important it was to manage the water around the home. And it is important because water is truly the home's enemy. You do not want it running toward your foundation. It can create hydrostatic pressure against the foundation. It can really create some big issues. So what we want to make sure is that the grading or the dirt up against the foundation is higher than it would be away. They say an inch for every 4-footer run, but bottom line is if you can eye it, or better yet, if it's raining, it sounds a little silly, but if it's raining really hard, get out and walk around the perimeter of your house. Watch where the water is going. You want it to be getting out of the gutters. If it's clogged gutters, you'll see it running up over the top of the gutter, and then you know you have a problem.
Sure.
So from an inspection standpoint, we want to make sure the dirt around the foundation is built up, in that we have adequate drainage all the way around, in fact, all the way down to the gutter system. And actually, this is probably a pretty good setup here. The gutter system itself, you really want it to get out beyond the landscaping. A lot of times people have really nice landscaping around their house and they don't realize that's creating a ponding effect and holding the moisture right up against the foundation. So these extensions are it's real important just to get them out away from the foundation.
So don't use it as a watering system for your plants, in other words.
Probably there's a better way to water your
I
plants.
think so. But
That's
I do
right.
have a question on when you are doing landscape work and they put plastic or another material under your rock. Does that hinder or not the water runoff?
Actually, the plastic should be followed by drain gravel. You'll see a lot of rock being used.
Yes.
And that's because it works kind of as a filter. the
Okay.
water is able to sift through it. So really what we're talking about is the grading or the dirt below that landscaping.
Okay.
That's what's important, because almost no matter what kind of landscaping you have, the water will seep through that. And so the runoff is the dirt or the backfill up against the foundation.
So
It's a
when
great question.
if you want to do anything of interest, you're better off getting somebody who really knows what they're doing as far as the landscaping goes, and not just stick some flowers in here, because
Yeah.
you could be in big trouble.
Or at least make sure before you do it that your dirt is slightly sloped away from the foundation. That's
Right.
probably the biggest thing to remember.
Okay. Now we were
Easy
going
to do.
we were going to do the window. Were you going to tell us about the windows?
Yep,
Let's
there are
go
a few
back
more
over
things
here.
if we want to walk straight
Yep.
back up here. We got a good
Okay.
window to use as an example. During a home inspection, an inspector will make sure that things are caulked and sealed properly. Water obviously can get through the smallest of holes, and so we want to make sure windows have a drip edge on the top so that the water runs around it and over the window, not down in between the window, and then around the sides as well. Something that is oftentimes simply deteriorated over the years. The UV rays of the sun will dry that up, crack it, it falls out, and so that's important to maintain. And again, around any of the penetrations that are around, like a simple vent like this, again, really good idea to make sure that's caulked up and sealed.
Okay, question. This home has metal framing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, other homes might have wood. How does that differ?
Really, the metal cladding is a little more maintenance free, of course, but it's really the same concept. I'm making sure the water's not able to penetrate the material, and then in addition to that, if it was wood, Tam, I would probably just say make sure the wood is in good shape. A lot of inspectors wear out gloves by pressing and touching things, because
Okay.
you want to make sure the integrity of that wood is there,
Sure.
and that it just doesn't look good, that it actually is all in place.
Makes sense.
All right.
These
All
have
right.
been some really good tips. I don't know. I think I'm going to go walk around the next time it's raining, because I'm not really sure about some spots around my house.
probably not
Or
something
maybe
you
I'll
think
have-
about
Maybe I'll
doing,
give one of
but-
my kids a buck to walk around when it's raining really
Well,
hard.
they like to walk in the rain.
Well,
it might be fun for them.
I'll give them a slicker or something to wear while they're doing it. This is everything we need to know about the foundation and the windows. This has been a lot of really great information. Please join us after the break here on Metro Woman.
Kelly, you wanted to say a few things about a deck.
Yeah, I did, and it's really one of those things that nobody really thinks about. I mean, it's either that a home has a deck or it doesn't have a deck, but one thing a home inspector looks for, besides the obvious condition of it, are these things right here, the railing or the balusters. This is really important. This particular deck is low to the ground, so it's maybe not as important, but boy, let me tell you, when you have small children, it's important two things, that these railings are no more than 4 inches apart from each other, because a little one can get themselves wedged in between there, and you certainly don't want that.
Right.
The other item is just to make sure they're good and safe. We like to see wood screws being used opposed to nails. Over time, nails will they'll kind of develop some drying effects of the wood, and they will become loose, and a child will go up and they like to grab them
Yeah.
and
Yes,
hold
they
them,
do.
and
Yep.
they could fall straight through it. And if you have a deck that's a second story, could be a real safety issue. So and I guess just real important to make sure these are nice and tight.
Makes good
That's
sense.
You know, and
Yes.
you can't be too careful around little kids. They have figured out everything to get around.
More than we have.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, I can guarantee you that for sure. Now, what would be some just bullet points on what we have learned today about the outside of the home?
Well, I think you want to really start at the roof. We were on the roof earlier and we talked about the materials of the roof. It's a rather expensive item. It is something that's important to make sure that it keeps the elements off your home. So certainly the roof. Then as you work your way down, just the overall condition and caulking, condition of the siding, the windows, caulking around those items. I think water management is something we hit on. That's really important.
Especially in the Midwest.
Absolutely. We get a lot of rain, a lot of snow that melts
Yep.
too. It really
Right.
does the same thing. So the water management around a home, and then maybe we'll finish with just the safety part about the deck and any other things around the home that can cause a child to be unsafe.
Kelly, thank you so much. We've definitely learned a lot today, and we hope you've learned a lot at home about home inspections. And if you have any show ideas, please visit our website, www.metrowoman.tv, and let us know what you'd like to see. Thanks for watching.